Hi guys, it's time for the next part of Wonder, so let's get started. What's cool about really little kids is that they don't say stuff to try to hurt your feelings, even though they sometimes do say stuff that does hurt your feelings. But they actually don't know what they're saying. Big kids though, oops, sorry. Big kids though, they know what they're saying, and that is definitely not fun for me. One reason I grew my hair long last year was I liked how my bangs covered my eyes. It helped me block out things that I don't want to see. Mrs. Garcia knocked on the door and poked her head inside. "They're here, Mr. Tushman," she said. "Who's here?" I said. "Thanks," said Mr. Tushman to Mrs. Garcia. "August, I thought it would be good for you to meet some students who'll be in your homeroom this year. I figured they could take you around the school for a bit, show you the lay of the land, so to speak." "I don't want to meet anyone," I said to Mom. Mr. Tushman was suddenly right in front of me, his hands on my shoulders. He leaned down and said very softly in my ear, "It'll be okay, August. These are nice kids, I promise." "You're going to be okay, Augie," Mom whispered with all of her might. Before she could say anything else, Mr. Tushman opened the door to his office. "Come on in, kids," he said, and in walked two boys and a girl. None of them looked over at me or Mom. They stood by the door looking straight at Mr. Tushman like their lives depended on it. "Thank you so much for coming, guys, especially since school doesn't start until next month," said Mr. Tushman. "Have you all had a good summer?" All of them nodded, but no one said anything. "Great, great," said Mr. Tushman. "So, guys, I wanted you to meet August, who's going to be a new student here next year. August, these guys have been students at Beecher Prep since kindergarten, though of course they were in the lower school building. But they know the ins and outs of the middle school program. And since you're all in the same homeroom, I thought it would be nice to get to know each other a little before school started. Okay? So kids, this is August. August, this is Jack Will." Jack Will looked at me and put out his hand. When I shook it, he kind of half smiled and said, "Hey," and he looked down really fast. "This is Julian," said Mr. Tushman. "Hey," said Julian, and he did the exact same thing as Jack Will. Took my hand, forced a smile, looked down fast. "And Charlotte," said Mr. Tushman. Charlotte had the blondest hair I'd ever seen. She didn't shake my hand, but she gave me a quick little wave and smiled. "Hi, August. It's nice to meet you," she said. "Hi," I said, looking down. She was wearing bright green Crocs. "So," said Mr. Tushman, putting his hands together on a kind of slow clap, "what I thought you guys could do is take August on a little tour of the school. Maybe you could start on the third floor? That's where your homeroom class is going to be. Room 301. I think Mrs. G is—" "Room 301, Mrs. Garcia called out from the other room. "Room 301, Mr. Tushman nodded. "And then you could show August the science labs and the computer room. Then work your way down to the library and performance space on the second floor. Take him to the cafeteria, of course." "Should we take him to the music room?" asked Julian. "Good idea, yes," said Mr. Tushman. "August, do you play any instruments?" "No," I said. "It wasn't my favorite subject on account of the fact that I don't really have ears." "Well, I do, they just don't exactly look like normal ears." "Well, you may enjoy seeing the music room anyway," said Mr. Tushman. "We have a nice selection of percussion instruments." "August, you've been wanting to learn to play the drums," Mom said, trying to get me to look at her. But my eyes were covered by my bangs, and I stared at a piece of old gum that was stuck at the bottom of Mr. Tushman's desk. "Great, okay, so why don't you guys get going?" said Mr. Tushman. "I'll just be back here in a half hour." He looked at my mom. I think Mom nodded. "So is that okay with you, August?" he asked me. I didn't answer. "Is that okay, August?" Mom repeated. I looked at her now. I wanted her to see how mad I was at her. But then I saw her face and just nodded. She seemed more scared than I was. The other kids started out the door, so I followed them. "See you soon," said Mom. Her voice sounded a little higher than normal. I didn't answer her. The grand tour. Jack, Will, Julian, and Charlotte went down a big hallway to some wide stairs. No one said a word as we walked up to the third floor. When we got to the top of the stairs, we went down a little hallway full of lots of closed doors. Julian opened the door marked 301. "This is our homeroom," he said, standing in front of the half-open door. "We have Miss Petosa. They say she's okay, at least for homeroom. I heard she's really strict if you get her for math, though." "That's not true," said Charlotte. "My sister had her last year and said she's totally nice." "Not what I heard," answered Julian, "but whatever." He closed the door and continued walking down the hallway. "This is the science lab," he said, and he got next to the door. And just like he did 2 seconds ago, he stood in front of the half-open door and started talking. He didn't look at me once he started talking, which was okay because I wasn't looking at him either. You won't know who you have for science until the first day of school, but you want to get Mr. Haller. He used to be in the lower school. He would play this giant tuba in class. It was a baritone horn, said Charlotte. It was a tuba, said Julian, closing the door. Dude, let him go inside so we can check it out, Jack Will told him, pushing past Julian and opened the door. Go inside if you want, Julian said. It was the first time he looked at me. I shrugged and walked over to the door. Julian moved out of the way quickly, like he was afraid I might accidentally touch him as I passed him. Nothing much to see, Julian said, walking in after me. He started pointing to a bunch of stuff around the room. That's an incubator. That black thing is called a chalkboard. Those are desks. These are chairs. Those are Bunsen burners. This is a gross science poster. This is chalk. This is an eraser. I'm sure he knows what an eraser is, Charlotte said, sounding a little like Via. How would I know what he knows, Julian said. Mr. Tushman said he's never been to school before. You know what an eraser is, right? Charlotte asked me. I admit I was feeling so nervous that I didn't know what to say or do except look at the floor. Hey, can you talk? Asked Jack Will. Yeah, I nodded. I still really hadn't looked at any of them yet, not directly. You know what an eraser is, right? Asked Jack Will. Of course, I mumbled. I told you there was nothing to see in here, said Julian, shrugging. I have a question, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. What exactly is homeroom? Is that like a subject? No, that's just your group, explained Charlotte, ignoring Julian's smirk. It's where you go to get to the school in the morning and your homeroom teacher takes attendance and stuff like that. In a way, it's your main class, even though it's not really a class. I mean, it's a class, but I think he gets it, Charlotte, said Jack Will. Do you get it? Charlotte asked me. Yeah, I nodded at her. Okay, let's get out of here, said Jack Will, walking away. Wait, Jack, we're supposed to be answering questions, said Charlotte. Jack Will rolled his eyes a little and turned around. Do you have any more questions? He asked. No, I answered. Well, yes, is your name Jack or Jack Will? Jack is my first name, Will is my last name. Oh, because Mr. Tushman introduced you as Jack Will, so I thought, ha! He thought your name was Jack Will, laughed Julian. Yeah, some people call me by my first and last name, Jack said, shrugging. I don't know why. Anyway, can we go now? Let's go to the performance space next, said Charlotte, leading the way to the science room. It's very cool. You'll like it, August. The performance space. Charlotte basically didn't stop talking as we headed down the second floor. She was describing the play they put her on last year, which was Oliver. She played Oliver even though she was a girl. As she said this, she pushed open the double doors to a huge auditorium. At the other end of the room was a stage. Charlotte started skipping toward the stage. Julian ran after her and then turned around halfway down the aisle. Come on, he said loudly, waving for me to follow him, which I did. There were like hundreds of people in the audience that night, said Charlotte, and it took me a second to realize she was still talking about Oliver. I was so nervous. I had so many lines, and I had all these songs to sing. It was so hard. Although she was talking to me, she really didn't look at me much. On opening night, my parents were all the way in the back of the auditorium, like where Jack is right now. But when the lights are off, you can't really see in the far of the back. So I was like, where are my parents? Where are my parents? And then Mr. Resnick, our theater arts teacher last year, he said, Charlotte, stop being such a diva. And I was like, okay. And I spotted my parents, and I was totally fine. I didn't forget a single line. While she was talking, I noticed Julian staring at me out of the corner of his eye. This is something I see people do a lot with me. They think I don't know they're staring, but I can tell from the way their heads are tilted. I turned to see where Jack Will was, where he had gone to. He had stayed in the back of the auditorium like he was bored. We put on a play every year, said Charlotte. I don't think he's going to want to be in the school play, Charlotte, said Julian, sarcastically. You can be in the play without being in the play, said Charlotte, looking at me. You can do lighting, or paint the backdrops. Oh yeah, whoopee, said Julian, twirling his finger in the air. But you don't have to take the theater arts elective if you don't want to, Charlotte said, shrugging. There's dance, or chorus, or band, there's leadership. Only dorks take leadership, Julian interrupted. Julian, you're being so obnoxious, said Charlotte, which made Julian laugh. I'm taking the science elective, I said. Cool, said Charlotte. Julian looked directly at me. The science elective is supposedly the hardest elective of all, he said. No offense, but if you've never ever been to a school before, why do you suddenly think you're going to be smart enough to take the science elective? I mean, have you ever studied science before? Like real science, not the kind that you do in kits. Yeah, I nodded. He was homeschooled, Julian, said Charlotte. So teachers came to his house? Asked Julian, looking puzzled. No, his mother taught him, answered Charlotte. Is she a teacher? Julian said. Is your mother a teacher? Charlotte asked me. No, I said. So she's not a real teacher, said Julian, as if that proved a point. That's what I mean. How can someone who's not a real teacher actually teach someone science? I'm sure you'll do fine, said Charlotte, looking at me. Let's go to the library now, Jack called out, sounding really bored. And we'll stop there for today. Love you all. Have a great day.